We have a Vivox poll. You can join through QR code or vivox.app in the ID, and you can put your views on what you would like to take away from this webinar. So we have our first response. Key concepts or messages about sustainability crucial to embed. Thank you for this. It is anonymous completely, so your details will not be shared. How can we as individual educators integrate sustainability into our daily work? Thank you for this. My name is Vasiliki Kioupi. I'm a lecturer in sustainable curriculum at the Sustainability Research Institute of the University of Leeds. And I'm going to talk to you about what we are doing at the University of Leeds to embed sustainability. Actually, we are en route a long process, but it is good to provide you with this webinar so we can reflect on what we have done so far, but also what remains to be achieved. The overview of my talk will include the climate plan and the sustainable curriculum strategies of the university, some focus areas of our work, some learnings from the literature on how we can embed education for sustainable development, spaces that influence how we embed sustainability into the curriculum, our surfacing skills framework, the lessons we have learned so far, how we do curriculum mapping for sustainability, and how we can also embed sustainability through the core and extra curriculum and some implications at the end. And then my colleague Manoj will take over. So at the University of Leeds, we have a 10-year strategy. We want to be a net zero university by 2030. We have made a big financial investment to achieve that of over £147 million. The main actual deliverable of this is the net zero by using renewable energy and decarbonizing the infrastructure of the university, but you can see we have other targets as well. And I'm currently working as member of the leadership team to provide a sustainable curriculum to every student at the university. We have a leadership team that is comprised by academics and professional services staff at the university, and a wider project team of which Manoj is actually a member, with diverse colleagues from many schools and faculties, because we want to have diverse views on how sustainability can be embedded in the curriculum. Also our professional service colleagues from the sustainability service and other services like careers, digital education service, they are helping us actually provide the sustainable curriculum in a more holistic way. And we work with students, the student sustainability architects. They are interns who are actually helping us deliver sustainability-related projects, such as embedding sustainability in the curriculum. Actually, our work is one big strategy, but to manage it better, we divide it into 4 areas around scholarship, research, and professional development. LANCI is our own community of practice. Actually, it stands for Leeds University Network for Sustainability in Higher Education. We do work on student engagement. I will talk about this later. Curriculum enhancement and support, and leadership and communication, as well as we are trying to be part of international networks for sustainability in education. We have actually realized as a leadership project team and a steering group that is actually steering the strategy forward, that it is not about what we teach as a content, it is about how we teach it, so the pedagogy of it. And we are trying to work in partnership with many other groups in the university who are working to deliver the climate plan and the student education strategy, so we don't work in silos, and we manage to align work, avoid duplication, and sometimes avoid the conflicts that may arise. One of our partners is LIGHT. It is the Leeds Institute for Teaching Excellence. We know that you have Inspire and NTU Singapore, so it is the equivalent of that. Some lessons learned from the literature. So I will talk about ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, because this is actually the mainstream way to embed sustainability in education. What a recent literature review has found is that there is not enough empirical evidence on how we can embed sustainability and what can work in different contexts, or if we should focus on a school level, program level, course level, module level. So there are different levels on which we can embed sustainability. There is also an importance of institutional commitment and the leadership that is followed at the university professional development, of course, for colleagues. And the culture plays a major role because sustainability education requires interdisciplinarity, and we are used in universities to teach in different disciplines. Of course, how we actually manage the culture and how we manage change at the university, is it top down, bottom up, or middle out, plays an important role. And we have a LIGHT project. LIGHT, as I said, is the Leeds Institute for Teaching Excellence. Some of us are pursuing on what is the meaning of embedding sustainability education into the curriculum and what are the processes of doing that. So this LIGHT project has investigated this question that I told you earlier about, and we have found that there are three spaces that influence how we embed sustainability in the curriculum. So these are the institutional, the sustainability, and the education space. So these are three spaces that interact, and they have different actual sizes depending on the institution. The sustainability space has to do with how the university develops a vision for sustainability to achieve and what are systems and resources are in place. Also, what are the existing capacities for sustainability and the existing knowledge. The institutional space is how we provide policies, strategies to actually pursue sustainability. Who are the gatekeepers of this process? What is the commitment of the institution? And if there is also recognition for people who are involved in this effort. And the education space has a lot to do with the pedagogy, how we teach, how the students learn, how we assess, how we ensure quality in the curriculum, and also how we can actually help develop new curriculum. So what we are doing at the University of Leeds is that we are trying to embed sustainability through our new education strategy. And we have a big curriculum reform and curriculum enhancement program that is called Curriculum Redefined. So what happens is, alongside the climate plan, for us to be net zero by 2030, we have a strategy for student education to promote environmental and social sustainability through our portfolio, our actions, and our student opportunities. So you can see there is alignment of the student education strategy with the bigger strategy of the university. This student education strategy does not only include sustainability, it includes also other areas we believe are important, such as inclusivity, entrepreneurship, decolonization, experiential learning. You can see authentic assessment and surfacing skills. So we are trying to work with all these groups, as I mentioned earlier. So we make sure that sustainability is part of all of these areas. We do that by actually having members of those groups contributing to our steering group or our meetings, and we are part of those groups as well. So we make sure it is a concerted effort, and we try to avoid the silos. So how we do it actually through our curriculum at the University of Leeds. The new Leeds curriculum is based on three pillars: your course, your future, and our world. So what this means is that in your course, you are actually learning, if you're a student at the University of Leeds, specific knowledge and skills related to the discipline, but we want sustainability to be part of your course. Your future is all the opportunities that are around your main area of study that will help you develop your skills for the future, for the workplace. And we want this also to be part of the student experience. And our world is actually the challenges we are faced with. Many of those are sustainability challenges. And we really want, again, to help the students develop those qualities that will help them thrive in this challenging world. And we do this by offering different types of opportunities. We have a mandatory sustainability induction course for all staff who are joining the university, so they know about our strategy and our visions of the future. We are actually offering a share point of scholarly material, case studies, and toolkits on how to do that, how to embed sustainability. We collaborate with a professional development team. We are helping the colleagues as well with a community of practice I mentioned earlier, LANSI. We are working with quality and assurance so we can embed sustainability in new courses, in the approval and enhancement of courses. And we are offering also an opportunity for our students to participate in an annual conference, the Student Sustainability Research Conference. And we also have sustainability skills that we want our students to develop. And I will talk about this later. So some of the findings of the research we have done so far is that We are trying to embed sustainability through designing the curriculum for sustainability through the courses. So we believe sustainability should be part of all courses, and we don't want to offer sustainability as an optional course for students. So every educator is actually empowered to teach about sustainability. Through the pedagogy we are using, mainly experiential learning and community engaged learning, and through enabling colleagues to not only teach about the discipline, but also promote interdisciplinarity through working with professional development and reward and recognition for colleagues who are involved in that, and through connecting our two strategies, the climate plan and the student education strategy. So I told you earlier about the skills matrix we have at the University of Leeds. So this is actually what we envision our students to develop after they have graduated throughout their study in Leeds. So this is the capabilities framework. You can see different layers to it. So the outer layer is the literacies, academic, professional, and digital literacy. We consider important for our students to develop the disciplinary knowledge. And then you can see at the core, we have different types of skills: academic, digital, sustainability, enterprise, technical, and work-ready skills. And this is something the students are developing alongside the literacies and the disciplinary knowledge. And we have an approach that is called surfacing skills. So this approach is used to help the students articulate the skills they are developing. So this is happening during curriculum design and during delivery of the teaching and learning, with the identification of skills, signposting, practicing, helping the students practice the skills, assessing them, and then having a reflection at the end so the students can articulate what they are developing. And when we talk about skills, at the University of Leeds, we actually adopt a broader understanding of skills. It is the equivalent of competencies, so knowledge, practical skills, and values at the same time, or attitudes. The sustainability skills we have embedded in the Leeds skills matrix. You can see there are 10. And there is also another light project we are undertaking to include diverse views on sustainability skills, because we have colleagues from very different disciplines. We want to include the student voice. Also, we want to include the views of our professional services staff on how to teach and assess those skills, so the students participate in meaningful and authentic learning experiences. So what are the early findings from this research is that you can see there are some staff views on what sustainability skills should be, such as design thinking, transdisciplinarity, systems thinking, and so on. But you can see also the student views. They talk about critical thinking, collaboration, and reflection, but also practical skills. For example, how you can plan, promote, communicate, and manage a project, or how you can solve a sustainability problem in a participatory, ethical, equitable, and inclusive way. What have we learned so far from embedding sustainability in the curriculum? It is important to have strategies that enable specific processes at the university. So these are the climate plan and the aligned student education strategy. I told you earlier about those three spaces. They influence how we embed sustainability in the process. We need to value the time and the space of educators, and also give them the time and space to innovate and be creative. So there is a need of changing the culture in academia. The context is important. It can be challenging sometimes, but it can also raise the profile of an institution. And we know, of course, at least in the UK, that the students demand sustainability in all of the courses that they are taking. There is importance of professional development, so colleagues feel empowered to do that. And this support can be formal through targeted professional development, but also informal through discussions or offering the space for colleagues to come together and discuss and be creative. And we had some case studies specific that we have developed on the practice of embedding sustainability. And some of the lessons learned from those case studies is that we really need to include skills such as sustainability skills in the design of the modules and the courses and the programs. And we need to embed a cross-cultural perspective as well for the students to better understand sustainability and the challenges we are faced with. And interdisciplinary approach is a tension and can offer a benefit, but sometimes it is very challenging for educators to actually use an interdisciplinary approach when they are teaching. The other challenge that we have identified is that for colleagues, for example, to touch on the different dimensions of sustainability and not only the technical dimension or the technological dimension is a challenge, because sustainability should be seen as a social, environmental, political, cultural, in its cultural context as well. And we have identified challenges with module leaders and educators who feel they are not prepared enough, or they have this imposter syndrome of not being experts in what they're teaching, but they learning alongside the students when they are teaching sustainability related courses. What else we are doing currently is we know that colleagues are embedding sustainability, and we really want to see how they have embedded it. So we have a big program of curriculum mapping at the university. This again a complex process that involves multiple stakeholders. It is part of curriculum enhancement, and we want to assess and evaluate what has already been done, because we know that work is already being done, although sometimes it's not very evident. So we have two projects right now of mapping the curriculum. One is in collaboration with a charity founded by university students. It is called Students Organizing for Sustainability UK, or SOS UK. So in collaboration with our student sustainability architects, we have conducted mapping of the curriculum for sustainability in 6 pilot schools. Actually, in this mapping, we can select our own keywords to map the curriculum, for example, around the Sustainable Development Goals or the sustainability skills in the Leeds Skills Matrix. These are the keywords we are using. And we are developing a process using Gen AI tools of mapping. This is again a pilot project, very early stage. And we have mapped 60 modules across 6 schools as well. But this needs to be validated with module leaders. And we have another process of embedding sustainability, not only through the curriculum, so through the mandatory studies or courses for the students, but through the co and extra curriculum. And for this, we have partnerships with many community organizations across Leeds and internationally. So we provide a richer experience for the students. We have developed, and we are developing further, a repository for student project ideas, so the students can actually become involved in those projects. We have links with the city of Leeds, because we want the city of Leeds to become a net zero city as well, as part of our commitment to combat climate change. And we have many links with employers in sustainability, so the students can gain internships or work placements or go volunteering with these organizations. We organize every year the Student Sustainability Research Conference. It is actually next week on the 5th of March. It is running as a net zero event, and it is the biggest student sustainability conference in the UK. We are giving opportunities to students through living labs. So living labs are projects on campus, and not only on campus, in the city, where sustainability challenges can be researched in collaboration with multiple stakeholders. They can be research, but they can also be student education projects. And we have funding available for colleagues and for students to pursue these projects if they want. We have broadening opportunities, so things that the students can do alongside their degree. We had a collaboration last year with the University of Pretoria, and this year with NTU Singapore on the climate change hackathon. And this is another project we are running, and we hope to gain some interesting research findings from. We have discovery modules for all the students to actually take about sustainability. We work with student societies and our student sustainability architects, as I said earlier. So the broadening opportunities we are offering to students are based on specific principles. They are cross-disciplinary. They are based on co-creation between students and staff. They are open to all, students, staff, and the public, some of them. They are authentic and experiential in their approach of learning, and they lead to hope, empowerment, and action. And one of these broadening activities that happened last year was the Social Justice Jam in collaboration with the University of Pretoria and 2 community organizations, one in Mamelodi, South Africa, and one in Leeds, UK. We wanted students, staff, and the public to work on 2 specific sustainability challenges or social justice challenges around the UN SDGs. And we brought them together to form groups to creatively brainstorm ideas, share their views, and identify solutions to those challenges. We also had some support for them in terms of workshops to help them understand power asymmetry or the context or how to generate new ideas. We found out that when you engage with external organizations and the students in designing this kind of opportunities, this can lead to transformative learning. We know this through the evaluation, interviews, and focus groups, but there is a challenge on how you can keep collaborating with those external partners, especially in an ethical and reciprocal way. Lastly, we are offering our students the opportunity for soul modules. This means this is actually under approval and it is in design. Those soul modules or student-oriented and bounding learning modules, they help the students bring into the curriculum other opportunities, extracurricular opportunities, so they can gain credit. For example, if they participate in the JAM or the hackathon or at the Student Sustainability Research Conference, or if they go to an internship with an organization in sustainability, they can bring it back to the curriculum through a specific process, a scaffolded process, so they can gain credits for this work as well. And I'm going to leave you with some implications from all of the work we have done so far. Embedding sustainability in the curriculum is a process of learning organizationally, so the entire institution needs to learn how to do it, but also individual educators and students need to learn how to do this. There is need for support from the institution, and the strategy should actually decide on the priorities of sustainability that they want to embed in student education. And those priorities need to be compatible with all the other strategies around inclusivity, entrepreneurship, or all the other targets of student education, because this may end up being conflicted in the end. And there is not one approach to embedding sustainability based on the different academic identities. For example, we can have different approaches that make sense for specific disciplines. And this is okay because sustainability actually allows for multiple views. And we really need to include spaces for colleagues to collaborate, to support each other, and we really need to provide all colleagues with appropriate recognition for their work in sustainability. And I think I will just leave it to Manoj now to continue the presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Vasiliki. I'll just get started sharing my slides, and if you can let me know if that works.
Yes, but you need to go on presentation mode.
Yep, I'm doing that now.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Vasiliki. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, to those joining us from NTU. So over the course of the next 20 minutes, I think Vasiliki has done a great job in terms of setting up the piece in terms of the overall institution level strategy and the different ways that we can embed sustainability within the curriculum, but also beyond. So I'm a lecturer at the School of Chemical and Process Engineering, so I will have a bias towards STEM subjects over the course of the next 20 minutes, but hopefully I think the message that you can take away is that a lot of this is also transferable across disciplines. So I'll get started by just tagging on to what Vasiliki was talking about earlier in her presentation, where she said there are different ways and levels in which you can embed sustainability. And one of the key figures that has informed our strategy here at the University of Leeds is the one on the left, sorry, which is taken from a piece of literature published back in 2010. But it tells you that there are these effectively 4 quadrants in which you can embed sustainability. So there are existing structures, so existing curriculum and programs where you can look to embed sustainability, or you can create new structures and new programs. So that's effectively those 2 lines. And then you can also embed sustainability within a very narrow curricular focus. So zooming into one particular lesson, one particular unit, a specific module within a program, or you can take a more broader approach, which is what the lower quadrants are, where you're looking at things across modules or potentially across programs. Now, what I'll do over the course of this talk is focus on the existing structures, because probably thinking about new programs and new structures, I think the target audience for that would be slightly different. But we as educators and practitioners interested in pedagogy of teaching and learning are probably more interested in saying, okay, this is the current program that we have. How can we engage in kind of a curriculum renewal exercise to embed sustainability? So effectively, those two quadrants that you have to look at is piggybacking and mainstreaming. So those are the narrow curricular and broad curricular approaches, respectively, to embed sustainability within an existing structure. So what do I mean by piggybacking? It's an approach which we tend to not take a lot of here at Leeds, probably because there are a few limitations associated with it, because that would mean, say, you have 10 lectures to deliver, a combination of lectures and tutorials, let's say 10 lectures and tutorials to deliver as part of a module. And then the piggybacking approach says, okay, let's add another session, so 11th session, which can either be a lecture or a tutorial on how this content is linked, for example, to the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's like an extra addition onto whatever is already being taught in a module or in a program. So that's a very narrow curricular approach. What we are rather more advocates of is the one in the bottom left quadrant, which is mainstreaming. So we're more interested in saying, well, don't just add an additional lecture or an additional unit in terms of sustainability, but mainstream it. So how can you embed sustainability within the 10 lectures or tutorials that you're already delivering? So that's the approach we're taking, and I'll hopefully point you towards some resources that might be useful to do this over the course of the rest of sort of 20 minutes or so. And that kind of links into kind of the pyramid model on the right. So we're looking at embedding foundations throughout the curriculum. So that's the mainstreaming approach. But alongside that, we do engage in co-curricular and extracurricular activities, which, as Vasiliki pointed out, can be the social justice jam or the hackathon that we are currently running with NTU Singapore as well. And the apex is the specialist courses that we could develop. Moving on, so if you were looking at different frameworks to embed sustainability, I think a common starting place, which everybody should be familiar with, are the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this is what Vasiliki roughly referred to as well in terms of doing a mapping exercise for existing learning outcomes, syllabus, etc., to what the UN SDGs are. So this can be both at a program level or at a module level. But what universities are increasingly starting to do is also show this explicit mapping to the UN Sustainable Development Goals on public-facing program web pages. So if you have a web page for prospective students to look at, I do not know, a chemical engineering program or a business and sustainability program, then it very much explicitly says, well, the competencies that you'd gain by completing this program helps address the following UN Sustainable Development Goals. So a very explicit mapping. And then students who want to pursue a program right from the outset know what they're learning about and how it links to sustainability. So that's one of the common frameworks. But then how do we take that framework and inform our curriculum renewal exercise? As I said, we're looking at existing structures and how we can embed sustainability. So we do want a pedagogical basis to do this. We don't want to arbitrarily embed sustainability because we want to do it. But how can we ensure that this is pedagogically robust? And one of the models that we'd recommend here at Leeds is the Desha Hargroves model. So this was published back in 2011. It's not necessary for sustainability alone. So the model was published in general for how do you engage in a curriculum renewal exercise. But what we're trying to do is adapt that model for renewal in terms of sustainability. So there are roughly 5 phases, as you can see, they're going clockwise. So it starts from identifying graduate attributes, mapping learning pathways, then auditing for learning outcomes, which will be at program level, and then looking at more module levels, so subject-specific learning outcomes. And then how do you develop and update the unit, implement that course of teaching and learning, and then cycle back again. So that's the Desha Hargroves model for renewing or redefining the curriculum. So in terms of how does this how can we leverage that model for embedding sustainability? And this is what we've been doing. So if you, again, start off with action point 1, which is you identify the graduate attributes. So this will be university defined attributes, of course, but then because we're looking at this from a sustainability specific perspective, we can think about what do technical roadmaps suggest. So again, if I'm looking at it from a science perspective or an engineering perspective, what do technical documents say are the sustainability competencies that future scientists, future mathematicians, future engineers require? So we get an exhaustive list of graduate attributes, and then we take that and analyze the module and program level learning pathways. So obviously we can use, for instance, a Bloom's taxonomy approach. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but that's probably the best place to start. So we can look at for a specific sustainability learning outcome, where do we start the awareness level, which is the absolute basic in level 1, it could be a little bit in level 2, and then where do they build on that awareness to go further up? So above understanding and subsequently through to application analysis, evaluation. So how does that learning pathway of a specific sustainability linked learning outcome evolve over the course of the program? Once you have that information in your specific program, then you can align that to what, for instance, accreditation requirements are. And I'll show you a slide next in terms of trying to break down accreditation or some kind of other quality assurance requirements in terms of sustainability and trying to understand how you can embed sustainability. So once you've done that analysis, you then adopt either a piggybacking or a mainstreaming approach with a preference for the latter, if that's possible. You implement the unit, you collect feedback, and then you iterate again. So that would be the way you'd probably go on a program level. So thinking about, again, that sort of action point 2 and 3, so looking at it from a Bloom's taxonomy perspective and auditing for the learning outcomes. This is, for instance, a case study of what we did here in the School of Chemical Engineering, Chemical and Process Engineering at the University of Leeds. So we said, let's take the accreditation advice in terms of the learning outcomes that we need to deliver, and let's do this Bloom's taxonomy analysis. So on the left, you can see it builds from awareness all the way through to application, but let's break it down across the 3 pillars of sustainability. So environmental, economic, and social. And across all those 3, what exactly do we need our students to learn and gain competence in? So that gives you a clear understanding of the evolution of these pathways from, as I said, awareness all the way through to application analysis and synthesis. So yeah, that's thinking of it from a program level perspective. But I also wanted to share some other frameworks. So the UN SDGs, which I showed earlier, is fairly well known universally, but probably one thing which has not got that much attention, but I think is an excellent resource, is this one from the Engineering for One Planet. So EOP stands for Engineering for One Planet. And I've also given you a link at the bottom if you want to access that particular framework. Now, again, if talking to a lot of academic staff, teaching faculty, there's this general impression that comes through saying, we do not quite know what kind of sustainability learning outcomes we need to embed, or we're trying to learn this on the fly. And that's why I think this document and framework is particularly useful, because it lists as many as 93 sustainability-focused learning outcomes. So it's very exhaustive. And those 93 learning outcomes are split across 9 topic areas. And you can see the list. I've put it down on the right, but you can also see it in the framework on the left. Effectively, it builds across 3 areas. So there's systems thinking, which I'll touch upon shortly. And you saw systems thinking did occur prominently a couple of times when Vasiliki was speaking about it as well. And then there's the core knowledge and understanding. So you can see the 3 points under knowledge and understanding mapped very elegantly onto the 3 pillars of sustainability. So environmental literacy is environment, business and economy is economic sustainability, and social sustainability is the social responsibility. So the 3 pillars of sustainability, and then you have the wider skills and experiences and behaviors. So that could be leadership skills in terms of critical thinking and communication, but also core technical skills, if you like, in terms of environmental impact assessment, material selection, and design. Now, arguably, some of those are engineering specific, I admit. So things like material selection and environment impact assessment might not apply to a number of other disciplines. But if you're a practitioner, as I said, not in an engineering discipline, still things like systems thinking and the 3 areas under knowledge and understanding are very much relevant. So we have those, as I said, 9 topic areas. So let's start with systems thinking. And now I'm going to give an example from chemistry, so not quite engineering, but more kind of pure sciences. And this was a piece of research that we did about 4 years ago. And it started when there was this revolution in terms of embedding systems thinking in chemistry education around about COVID time. So it was about 2021, when the Journal of Chemical Education also had a special issue released on how to embed systems thinking within chemistry education. So one of the things that we were advocates of was to have these SOCMEs. So as you can see there, SOCME stands for System Oriented Concept Map Extensions. So what this allows our students to do is, for instance, they're studying, so this is a chemistry example, so that let's say they're looking at a specific chemical reaction and the mechanism of a chemical reaction. Now, what we want our students to do is not just have that technical expertise of, okay, this is exactly how at the molecular level a specific chemical reaction is proceeding, but we want them to zoom out from that. The molecular perspective is very important, but how do they couple it with a sort of larger level sustainability perspectives? So this is what the kind of the system map on the right tells. Now, I'm obviously not going to go into the nitty-gritties of that, but effectively it tells you, okay, here's a specific catalyst, this is how it's working, this is the chemistry of the reaction, but how does it eventually link back to, so that kind of core technical knowledge is here, the blue subsystem and the purple subsystem. But then how does it link back eventually to sustainability? So because a reaction is working in a particular way, why does it make it more economically feasible? Or why does it make it more environmentally sustainable in terms of a lower carbon footprint? So you see there are these network of arrows which eventually link through to the green subsystem, which is the environment and economics subsystem. So that's how, even for a chemistry student who's looking at it purely from a mechanism of a reaction, you could couple that core technical knowledge to sustainability related competencies. And that is equally important because it tells them, okay, that's how the two components interact. And that kind of holistic perspective can only be done through systems thinking. Whereas if you're only looking at it from a reductionist perspective, then you do not get that interaction of different components and how a specific mechanism is linked to a specific catalyst, is linked to a specific carbon footprint or economic viability and things like that. So that was something that we looked at from a chemistry perspective, but as I said, systems thinking is applicable to a whole array of other disciplines as well. Okay, in terms of resources, so this is again something that we often get asked, saying, okay, I'm interested in embedding sustainability, but I don't know how to do it. Where do I get some useful resources from? So last year, the EPC stands for the Engineering Professors Council. So they're a largely UK-based organization. But again, I've put a link to a sustainability toolkit, which they published last year. And it's just an exciting trove of resources. So as you can see, I've just put a screenshot there of the different articles and resources on that website. So they have from basic knowledge tools and guidance tools. So if you're a relatively new starter to embed sustainability, you have an interest, but you do not know how to do it pedagogically. Also, you do not know what kind of technical sustainability resources you can use, then that's your starting point, the knowledge tools and the guidance tools. But then let's say you've acquired this competence, but you want ready-made case studies. So you don't have much time. You just want to take a case study that somebody else has implemented within your discipline, and you just want to adapt that and deliver it as part of your teaching exercise, as part of your unit. Then those teaching tools are also excellent, because quite often we've said, and it's classified by discipline. So you could have some for mechanical engineering, some for computing, and etc. So you can pretty much go through that list, pick a case study that somebody has implemented in, as I said, mechanical engineering, for example, and you have almost a step-by-step breakdown of how to implement that activity. So you take that resource and implement it as such. So it's relatively low effort. So you don't have to design a unit from scratch. You can take those resources and implement it straight away. Likewise, that was the Engineering Professors Council, the EPC Sustainability Toolkit. Another resource which I direct you to is the EOP, the Engineering for One Planet, not their framework document, but this is their step-by-step ideas. So again, they break it down into across the 96 learning outcomes that I said earlier. For every learning outcome, they've given you an example. So here's one, for instance, I've picked just to keep it different. I've spoken a little bit about chemistry, a little bit about engineering. So I thought let's go to computing and numerical methods. If you're thinking from a computer science or a math perspective, then again, they give you a very specific example. So a 60-minute learning activity, so mainstreaming or integration. And the learning outcome they're looking at here is in terms of biases in critical thinking. So here, the only thing is, even if you're a computing or a mathematical student, you might be doing this already. You're looking at data, you're processing data, you're potentially thinking about bias in terms of data. But what they're looking at here is, well, do the same exercise, but probably with environmental related data, right? So they say sources of air, water, soil, radiation, etc. So your core computing or mathematical skills will still remain the same, but you mainstream sustainability by looking at an application which is pollution related. So you still have to engage in critical thinking and systems thinking, but then sustainability is the undercurrent to it. So yeah, that's an excellent resource as well that you can look at. Some of the things that we do at Leeds, which again are things that I think are particularly useful, is we do collaborate with the IDEA Center. The IDEA stands for Interdisciplinary Ethics Applied, the IDEA Center here at Leeds, and they engage in shared teaching across all disciplines. So I think I can draw a parallel with the ICC course that students at NTU take in terms of, for instance, sustainability. So we have the shared teaching approach across STEM schools and departments, and we do it across all levels. So in first year, when students have just entered university, there's a general introduction to sustainability module, which again could be drawn parallels to the ICC course you people do at NTU. And then at level 2, it goes up a notch in terms of understanding circular economy, ethical issues. Again, that surfacing of ethics and sustainability is really immense and important. And now with AI being a greater conversation point, we've started to develop a new AI and sustainability course, which we expect to roll out over the course of the next academic year. Right, a quick case study I wanted to show you all in terms of chemical engineering design projects. So this is again the mainstreaming approach. So chemical engineers have always been, our students are engaged in design, but it's just that now we've started incorporating more sustainability related design projects within the curriculum. So you can see things like green ammonia, biodiesel. So they've always had to design these processes, but it's intricately linking them to the UN SDGs and getting them to design these projects. So another way to embed sustainability. Likewise, sticking with chemical engineering, again, I'm not going to go into the technical detail of those different terms on the left because that might not apply to all audiences. But what we're trying to do is take core chemical engineering competence, which are things like mass and energy balance, fluid mechanics, heat transfer, etc., and see how is it linked to the 3 pillars of sustainability across our teaching across the 3 years. So a thicker arrow would mean that we surface this quite a lot in the curriculum. So how is mass and energy balance related to environmental sustainability or social sustainability is relatively strongly delivered in the curriculum, but there's some other aspects which are not as strongly surfaced. So that helps you as an educator identify what links can be strengthened going forward and where we are potentially already doing a good job. Right. The other thing I'm coming towards the end of my presentation now is probably to engage in understanding perspectives from staff and students. So this was a research that we recently published where we were asking students across not just in Leeds, but across the world, including China and other parts of the world, saying where do they see opportunities in terms of sustainability in the curriculum. And what we often saw was students express greater confidence in terms of sustainability opportunities outside the curriculum than inside the curriculum. So that's probably, again, a call for action in terms of us as educators. We as teaching staff usually have an increased confidence, which is what the orange bar is. But what we probably need to do is align it back to where the students think they are. And linking into this was, as I said, a piece of research that we just published, I think, a week ago. So it's this year's papers you can see in the Education for Chemical Engineers journal. But what will be particularly useful is to understand, it's fine saying we want to embed sustainability, but what exact concept of sustainability are we lacking in? So we did this large-scale student survey. So we surveyed students in China and the rest of the world, which is the ROW, and we asked them to rate their competence across these different sustainability related topics. And you can see, for instance, that life cycle analysis among, say, the rest of the world is relatively higher compared to students from China. So it pretty much gives you information where we are lacking from a student's perspective, and consequently, we can take action to bridge that gap as educators from a curriculum design perspective. So yeah, that pretty much draws me to a close to today's presentation. I hope you found the resources and some of those things useful, but also wanted to wrap up by having a call for collaboration, really. I think we're doing already quite a good job in terms of surfacing links between Leeds and NTU, but of course, in terms of sharing good practice, but also developing, for instance, COIL programs, we'd be more than happy to engage in those kind of activities. So do feel free to reach out to either me or Vasiliki. You can email us, those addresses there at the bottom right, or we're also on LinkedIn if that's more preferable.
Currently, looking at the from the secondary school to the university level, the concept of sustainability is being introduced to the even in Singapore context, even in the secondary schools like Set 2, Set 3. So, how are we going to teach to these kids when they come to the university to the level of that's what is anticipated of? And then my second question is, how do we teach the people who have never exposed to the, say, for example, power cuts, water shortage, or the so-called the environmental pollution, for example. On and off, you do have the smog levels going up and all that, but it's not so routine. So these are the two how they can appreciate the water supply or the energy supply, these concepts.
From what I understood is the first question is around students who are already taught about sustainability in secondary school and then they come to the university prepared. I think this is excellent. If students have the opportunity to become exposed to sustainability earlier on, and research has actually shown that the earlier the better for the students. I think they come prepared, they come expecting that they will be exposed to learning and teaching about sustainability. So I think there is an opportunity there to use the ideas of those students and to use the excitement and motivation of those students in a course. And I think in different disciplines at the university level, as we said earlier, you really need to think about how you do it in your own discipline, but how can you actually collaborate with others from other disciplines to offer something more holistic to the students. The other option is to offer them broadening opportunities, as we said earlier, extracurricular opportunities, so they take action, because we know from our students, and Manoj mentioned it very well in the slides, that they come wanting to learn about sustainability in their own courses, but they think that they develop the most skills for what they will do in the future through all the extracurricular things they are doing. So you really need to offer them both opportunities. So you keep them excited and you really develop the skills they need for the future. I think academia is in a place that can offer this more, let's say, targeted education to them, so they can become the sustainability professionals of the future. And I was in a very interesting discussion that we should not think about the future as specific roles related to sustainability. Every role in the future will be actually related with sustainability. So we really need to prepare our students for that. Manoj, your views on this?
No, I think you've covered pretty much a lot of points there, Vasiliki. I agree, but also in terms of probably a comment on that secondary school to university transition. So we do have these open days, so prospective students come, which I'm sure you have. I don't know what the equivalent is at NTU, but I'm sure you have that. Yeah, and we ask them why do you want a career? For instance, I'm in chemical engineering. Why do you want? A lot of it links back to solving global challenges on sustainability. So I think the appetite is very much there from secondary school level. But what we need to do, as Vasiliki mentioned, is just ensure that we, at least within the existing curricula, take that mainstreaming approach to couple technical skills to sustainability. Because especially with students from China, on the paper that we've published, we've seen that we asked them, how do you rate your sustainability knowledge at the start of your university degree to where you are now? And we're not seeing that much of a sharp increase. So it's fine that we're doing a good job, I think, at a secondary school level, largely driven through UNESCO and other initiatives. But I think in terms of university education, it is important that we take that mainstreaming approach to say we might have a packed curriculum in terms of technical knowledge, but it's important to surface those links better so our students feel more confident.
If I can ask, right, Vasiliki, you mentioned something about like there's quite a bit of motivation on the students' part, or rather, I don't know if that's quite the right way to capture it, but like there's quite a bit of interest on the part of students for the more non-curricular, or co-curricular or extracurricular side of things. Is there, do you have this situation where students, although they might sense more possibility to develop sustainability oriented skills and competencies and so on through the co-curricular education, do they sometimes feel like, oh, it's not as important as the curricular side, as the academic side? Ultimately, the grades are the thing that will contribute to their future career and career prospects and economic potential. Do you see that tension taking place at all in Leeds, at least?
That's a very interesting question. I have not actually seen evidence of what you're saying. I know there are students who are very much interested in those internships because, yeah, it will be good on the CV for when they go after the university to pursue a job. But there are equally interested students to the discipline. So we have this challenge. So we have many students interested in sustainability, and they really want to do all the extra things. Sometimes they're doing more than they have capacity for. This is something that we have actually witnessed through evidence. And we have the students who are really bound to the discipline because they believe this is what will help them find a job later on. But yes, there has not been research actually on this, which is a very interesting question. Manoj, do you have any views on that?
No, I'd second what you said, Vasiliki. I think currently we're probably in a space where we've not seen that much of a conflict between, that grade-driven approach, which I think students at Leeds, or at least within my school, we do see that students are grades-driven. But then we don't see the sustainability-related activities probably hindering that thing because, yeah, as Vasiliki mentioned, they see, okay, there are lots of people getting, say, a first classification in terms of their degree by their grades, but what is going to be your USP on your CV? And they see that engaging in these kind of other co and extracurricular activities gives them that point of difference. So yeah, we haven't seen that much of a conflict, although I fully agree that they tend to be grades driven as well.